Chapter 3278. Yi Qing Luo opened the pet space. Not only Qi Yan and Shi Ju also ran out from the pet space. After Qi ran out, its snow-white body pounced onto the weeds in front of it. Its 4 legs faced the sky, revealing its snow-white belly. That furry tiger head was still swaying back and forth. Its size was the size of a normal tiger. But Qi's action of pouncing on the grass. It was like a snow-white cat, acting cute and acting coquettishly. Yi Qing Luo indicated that her blood tank was already empty. Phew, there was a loud sound of wings flapping in his ears. Yi Qing Luo wiped the blood on her nose as she followed the sound and looked up into the sky. Between the dense branches was the dark blue sky. A bright and dazzling red glow soared in the sky, moving swiftly. Like a free bird, flying in the sky. She could tell. Qi Yan's mood was delighted. The 2 sacred beasts were so happy in this place. Yi Qing Luo's vision shifted onto Shi Ju. Shi Ju's 4 legs stretched out, lying on the ground. Perhaps it noticed Yi Qing Luo's gaze. It swayed its leopard head, blinking its brown eyes, looking extremely adorable. Although Shi Ju's performance wasn't like Qi and Qi Yan, who were so excited that they completely released their nature. But from its relaxed and contented posture, it could be seen. It also liked this forbidden area very much. Yi Qing Luo smiled slightly at Shi Ju. Suddenly, her eyes flashed, as if there was something sparkling, flashed past her eyes. Yi Qing Luo half squatted down, got close to Shi Ju's side, and stretched out her hand towards it. Shi Ju's claws crawled forward on the ground, rubbing its smooth head into Yi Qing Luo's palm. The minute it got close. On its head, Yi Qing Luo saw the sparkling and translucent thing earlier. Her palm came into contact with a piece of ice cold. Under the black fur on Shi Ju's head, there was a jade-green sparkling pearl nestled in it. When Yi Qing Luo touched the pearl. On the pearl, a jade-green light flashed past. This is. Yi Qing Luo brushed aside the black fur on Shi Ju's head, as she asked puzzledly. On Shi Ju's head, there was not this jade-colored pearl in the past. That's a soul pearl formed from the black tortoise's half-soul. When Qi heard its master's voice, it rolled up from the ground and took light and quick steps as it jogged to Yi Qing Luo's side. Qi leaned against Yi Qing Luo's leg and fell onto the ground again. The crisp little voice continued, "The atmosphere here is very friendly to us beasts. If we stay here longer, Qi's power will be even stronger than before." Qi raised its head proudly, its tiger-like eyes filled with pride. The black tortoise half-soul must have felt the aura here, so it specially condensed into a soul pearl and followed Shi Ju out. So it was the black tortoise, Yi Qing Luo nodded thoughtfully. No wonder those stupid humans say that this place is so magical. The red flame hovering in the sky, I don't know when, stood on a thick branch. Its sharp red beak slowly stroked the brilliant phoenix feathers on its body. That's right, the atmosphere here, to us beasts, is the best form of recuperation and advancement, but to humans, it's a fatal injury. Qi nodded its furry head adorably. Fatal injury? Chapter 3279. Yi Qing Luo raised her hand and touched her chest. Here, the aura condensed in the air, and that special power, is indeed very strange. But, it doesn't seem to resist me. At least, here, she didn't feel any fatal injury. Qi Yan glanced at her proudly, and immediately snorted arrogantly. If it wasn't because you contracted with this sacred beast and little white, you would have been swallowed by the power here the first time you stepped in here. Yi Qing Luo rarely coaxed, yes, thanks to you and Qi. Qi Yan got Yi Qing Luo's response, and his long neck was even more arrogant. Yi Qing Luo touched Qi's head and immediately stood up. She looked around, slowly opened her arms and closed her eyes. She slowly operated the profound jade heart in her body, bit by bit, releasing the power of the profound jade heart. The red profound light, like a red streamer, faintly flashed around Yi Qing Luo. She released the profound energy. and the power condensed in the air of this forbidden area. It was extremely harmonious. There was no feeling of swallowing or chasing. Yiqing Luo withdrew her profound energy, and the arc of her lips slowly deepened. When she heard about the forbidden area, Yiqing Luo already had a guess in her heart. Just now the conversation between Qi Yan and Qi Qi made her more certain of the guess in her heart. And now, she had personally tested the compatibility between herself and the power that Qi Yan had mentioned. She had already confirmed her guess. Choosing to come to the forbidden area was indeed the right choice. At the entrance, she sat quietly for about half an incense stick of time. Yiqing Luo stood up and was about to call a few of her companions to go deeper. But when her line of sight passed by Shiju, the words that she wanted to say were stuck in her throat. Shiju drooped its head, its chin rested on its front paws, its leopard body slightly curled up, its dark brown eyes stared unblinkingly in a certain direction in the depths of the dense jungle. That look was completely different from the usual cute leopard image. Its whole body was shrouded in a thick sense of desolation. Desolation? This kind of emotion should not appear on a young leopard beast. Wasn't it fine just now? Yiqing Luo took quick steps forward and squatted down beside Shiju as her little hand caressed the fur on its back. Little Ju, what's the matter? It sensed its master's aura. Shiju merely twisted its leopard head and took a look at Yiqing Luo before staring blankly towards the front. He still had that desolate look on his face. Yiqing Luo's actions became gentler. She gently asked a few questions. Shiju had no intention of responding. Every time, he would turn his head to look at her, then stare blankly ahead. Yiqing Luo and Shiju's conversation also attracted Qi Qi and Qi Yan's attention. It must be missing its family. After the scarlet flames circled one round, it landed on the ground beside Yiqing Luo. After all, it's still a cub. After leaving its kin for so long, it will definitely miss them. Did it miss its mother? Yiqing Luo was slightly stunned. He immediately understood. The lush foliage here was indeed very different from the magical beast forest. After seeing the environment here, Shiju would inevitably recall the days when he was with his mother. Yiqing Luo gently patted Shiju's head. Qi Yan and Qi Qi, no matter how much they stayed by its side, it ultimately couldn't be compared to the feeling of being with the mother beast. Star. Chapter 3280. Regarding this, Yiqing Luo didn't know how to comfort it. Only when one person, 3 beasts, and 1 soul bead entered the depths of the forbidden grounds, she accompanied Shiju. Just like this, they went deeper. Along the way, there were no accidents or thrilling incidents. There was no sight of any other living creatures. Could it be? In the East continent for the past hundreds of years, this forbidden grounds had been spread like a legend. The reason why no cultivator was able to leave this place alive. Not because of how dangerous the forbidden grounds was. Just because the energy and aura here was fatal to humans. Those who entered the forbidden grounds not died under the danger, but died under this special energy? No. Impossible. This was a forbidden ground with special energy. It was absolutely not as simple as it looked on the surface. There was a high possibility that this was the calm before the storm. Yiqing Luo didn't let down her guard because of this. The facts proved that Yiqing Luo's guess was right. Just as 1 person and 3 beasts were about to reach the depths of the forbidden grounds, she stopped in her tracks. The 3 little fellows beside her also held their breaths. This was a continuous stretch of dense forest. As far as the eye could see, there were large patches of green. From time to time, a breeze blew past. It was very clear. The smell of the forest was brought along with the wind. And at this moment, the smell brought along by the breeze. It was no longer the smell of nature, but the smell of blood. A very strong smell of blood. Not only that, the surrounding air also gradually changed. It was tainted with an obvious austere and dangerous atmosphere. Yi Qing Luo's perception was very high. After smelling the strange atmosphere in the air, she immediately sensed the dangerous atmosphere in the surroundings. She congealed her senses and used her mental power. Through the blood contract with the war pet, she said solemnly, "You all adjust your body shape and hide on me first." The three little fellows didn't hesitate at all. Even Chi Ao Jiao, who usually liked to sing a different tune, also cooperated and turned into a magpie-sized red bird, shrinking on Yi Qing Luo's shoulder. When the three little fellows had just turned into a palm size and nested on Yi Qing Luo's body, Yi Qing Luo's ears suddenly twitched as her expression congealed slightly. Roar! A deafening howl of a wild beast was heard. That sound, couldn't tell what kind of wild beast it was. It was as if the entire ground of the forest had been shaken a few times. In the blink of an eye, the howl was already very close. Almost reflexively, Yi Qing Luo moved her feet and displayed her footwork. Boom! Yi Qing Luo could clearly feel that the ground beneath her feet seemed to have cracked. When he looked up again, he looked at the place where she had been standing. It was already in ruins. Flashes of lightning were still flowing. Yi Qing Luo narrowed her eyes slightly as she carefully sized up the lightning on the ruins. What is this thing? How could it cause such great destruction? By the time Yi Qing Luo saw clearly what was revealed after the billowing smoke and dust dispersed, she couldn't help but drew in a breath of cold air. They saw. At the center of the ruins was a beast with 4 limbs on the ground. Its entire body was covered in green fur that looked like sharp blades, and electricity flowed through its body. That beast was even bigger than Chi-Chi's combat form. The reason why people couldn't tell what kind of beast it was, that beast looked like a bear, but it wasn't a bear at the same time. It looked like a lion. Chapter 3281. That's right, this beast not only looked so unrecognizable, it also had an extra eye. Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but think of Erlangshan's howling celestial dog. However, the howling celestial dog looked much better than this beast. This was the first time Yi Qing Luo saw this kind of beast. From the aura of the beast and the murderous intent in its 3 vicious eyes, it came with bad intentions. The first creature she met in the forbidden area. But it was a hostile relationship. Yi Qing Luo sighed. She didn't even know what kind of beast it was. She didn't know how many other unknown beasts there were in the forbidden area. If they really wanted to fight, then she might not be able to take advantage. Here, there is such a beast. Qi Yan's voice came from between the hair. Yi Qing Luo immediately asked, "Do you know what kind of beast it is?" Qi Yan's tone was dignified. Generally speaking, ordinary beasts, after seeing this sacred beast and Little White, will be deterred by the majesty of the sacred beast and will definitely not dare to come forward and find trouble with you. But this beast is different. Qi Yan explained, "This is a variant of the magical beast. We call it demonic beast. It is similar to the meaning of falling into the devil's way. This demonic beast is the devil's way of the magical beast." Demonic beast? Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. How can there be a demonic beast here? Wasn't the aura in the forbidden area the best atmosphere for magical beasts to recuperate and advance? How could it breed a demonic beast? Qi Yan shook its head. Its tone became heavier. If it is an ordinary demonic beast, it is easy for you to deal with it. But what's worse is that this demonic beast happens to be the most powerful and fast among the demonic beasts. 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast. Hearing this name, Chi exclaimed, 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast? There is actually a 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast here? Even a silly little guy like Chi had heard of the name 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast. How confident are you 2 against the 3 Eyes Heavenly Beast? Yi Qing Luo asked doubtfully. This question immediately made Qi Yan angry. Stupid human, are you questioning the strength of this sacred beast? This sacred beast is the dignified vermilion bird. It's just a small demonic beast. This sacred beast doesn't even put it in my eyes, okay? Oh. Yi Qing Luo replied expressionlessly, then, I'll leave this Tong Tian beast to you. Qi Yan's proud little head suddenly drooped down again. Its sharp beak poked Yiqing Luo's neck and said in a bad mood, "Isn't it all because you stupid human being is so weak? After forming a contract with you, this sacred beast and little white strength will be suppressed because of this. If this holy beast had a third of the strength I had during my prime, let alone one three-eyed heavenly beast, even if there were 10 or 100 of them, this holy beast would only be able to move its mouth. Saying so much doesn't change the fact that you can't deal with this beast now." Yiqing Luo rudely interrupted Qi Yan's arrogance. The scarlet flame was so angry that it flapped its wings and cried out. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about Qi Yan's anger, but pondered over what Qi Yan said earlier. From Qi Yan's mouth, he probably knew. The three-eyes heavenly beast was very powerful. So powerful that even the current Qi Yan or Qi didn't have the confidence to win. Chapter 3282. Master, it's not that little flaming and Qi can't deal with the three-eyed heavenly beast, but three-eyed heavenly beasts don't act alone. Qi moved closer to her head and explained in a serious manner. It's not a demonic beast that moves alone. Yiqing Luo muttered this sentence in a low voice as her slender brows suddenly tightened. Such a ferocious beast. And they were acting in groups? Was there still a way out for them? Yiqing Luo's mouth twitched as she sharply scanned the surroundings of the lush forest. She was vigilant to prevent the other three-eyed heavenly beasts from sneaking up on her. So, once Little Flaming and Qi start fighting, the other three-eyed heavenly beasts will rush over to help. Qi's ears drooped as she put on a guilty look. It's not that Qi can't beat these beasts, but Master said to leave the forbidden area within 2 days. If we fight, we won't be able to solve the problem in 2 days. Yiqing Luo. So ferocious. After fighting for 2 days and 2 nights, they still couldn't decide the winner? Wasn't this a little too ferocious? Yiqing Luo stroked Qi's little head and comforted, "After all, this is not our territory, let's try not to fight." But they hadn't met any danger along the way. Why did a three-eyed heavenly beast suddenly appear and cause trouble? There were no signs of magical beasts living in groups around here. So there was no reason to offend them by trespassing on their territory. Judging from the dangerous aura brought by the wind earlier, this three-eyed heavenly beast must have come looking for them. Roar! The three-eyed heavenly beast stared at Yiqing Luo and let out an incomprehensible howl. Yiqing Luo knitted her brows and calmed herself down. She squinted her eyes and said calmly, "Three-eyed heavenly beast? Since it's a mutated magical beast, it should be able to speak human language. It shouldn't be difficult for you." The three-eyed heavenly beast's ferocious eyes turned cold as its murderous aura intensified. It opened its mouth wide and revealed its sharp fangs. Its scarlet tongue licked its mouth from time to time. It looked like it was staring at its prey and was about to swallow it whole. If it were anyone else, he might have been frightened by the three-eyed heaven-reaching beast's appearance and begged for mercy. But Yiqing Luo's expression didn't change. She only raised her eyebrows and was extremely calm, not willing to talk. "Very well, then I have no interest in wasting my time with you." Saying that, Yiqing Luo circled around the three-eyed heavenly beast and moved forward. Her speed was not slow. However, the three-eyed heavenly beast was simply too big. Yiqing Luo had walked for more than 10 steps but had yet to bypass Skylink God. With great difficulty, he walked out of the range of the Skirich God's body. Suddenly, a black shadow descended from the sky. Yiqing Luo took 2 steps back. "Pa!" The black figure fell heavily to the ground. That was the tail of the three-eyed heavenly beast, blocking Yiqing Luo's way. Yiqing Luo halted her footsteps as she calmly glanced sideways at the Tong Tian beast. "Do you intend to have a talk?" Tong Tian beast slowly moved its sturdy long legs and turned around, facing Yiqing Luo. That pair of sharp beastly eyes reflected the girl's calm and indifferent face. It slowly kept its fangs and a hoarse and sharp voice came from its mouth. "Human, aren't you afraid of me?" Sure enough, it was a demonic beast that could speak human language. Yiqing Luo smiled lightly. What's your motive? A pack of demonic beasts had inexplicably rushed over to look for her. If it was only because it smelled the scent of a human and wanted to treat her as food. Chapter 3283. Apparently, the heavenly beast did not treat her as an ordinary person. The three-eyed heavenly beast stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo as if she was a tiny ant that could be squashed to death at any time. Human, you are very smart. It said in a hoarse voice. Yiqing Luo smiled slightly. So, tell me your purpose. The tone of the heavenly beast rose slightly and became slightly sharp. This place does not belong to you. Either leave or die. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Are you threatening me? The feeling of being threatened by a demonic beast. It was really refreshing. No. The heavenly beast bared its sharp fangs. Human, I don't want to waste time with you. Yiqing Luo tilted her head and laughed mockingly. Unfortunately, I came in here, and if I can't achieve my purpose, I will be very unwilling to leave. Her voice revealed a trace of lightness. When the three-eyed heavenly beast heard this, the murderous intent in its eyes became even more obvious. The three-eyed heavenly beast raised its paw and landed heavily on the ground. The earth shook and the mountains shook. The forest shook. There was also a faint sound of rubble flowing. But this series of actions, the influence which it caused, didn't make Yiqing Luo's expression change at all. Not only that, Yiqing Luo's lips curled into a mocking smile. It seemed to be mocking the three-eyed heavenly beast for overestimating itself. Three-eyed heavenly beast. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth slowly and accurately called out its species. Her smile was full of ridicule and calmness. The fact that you are talking to me means that you are also afraid of my strength. After all, ordinary humans can't possibly stand here unscathed, so don't act arrogantly in front of me. The three-eyed heavenly beast's eyes turned cold as it stomped its paw on the ground angrily. Towards its anger, Yiqing Luo didn't have any reaction. Instead, her lips curled into an enchanting arc. Let me guess, for a mutated demonic beast like you, and your strength isn't bad, you want to force me to leave this place. Yiqing Luo paused for a moment and raised her eyebrows. So, are you trying to stop me from coming into contact with something, or are you afraid that I will ruin your plan? This sentence, Yiqing Luo intentionally slowed down the speed of her speech, as she spoke out word by word. Demonic beasts were demonic beasts after all. He couldn't compare to others. After Yiqing Luo's words left her mouth, the three-eyed heaven beast couldn't hide the emotions in its eyes at all. Its beast eyes were filled with malice, as though it was going to tear Yiqing Luo apart any time. This indicated that what Yiqing Luo had guessed was right. She really had the constitution of stirring up trouble at any time. Even in this forbidden area where humans were not allowed to enter. It would also cause a huge incident. There was no one else like him. Humans are really cunning. The three-eyed sky-reaching beast was infuriated, and its eyes were filled with rage. Its body flashed, releasing flowing lightning all over its body, and it let out a howl. Paw paw paw. The electric current struck down. From the area under Yiqing Luo's feet, the ground was like a spider web as it spread out. Gotcha. Following that, the ground began to crack. Yiqing Luo's feet felt light. The ground cracked open, letting her body fall. Are you going to make a move now? Looks like I was right. Yiqing Luo's chuckling voice was mixed with an appalling coldness. She tiptoed and her body floated lightly in midair. With a flip, she landed on a big tree. Chapter 3284. The three-eyed heavenly beast's eyes flashed coldly when it saw Yiqing Luo making her move. It seemed to be disdainful. It lifted its claws and stomped hard on the ground again. Immediately, it raised its neck and let out a sharp roar. His sharp fangs shone through the gaps between the lush leaves of the tree. Under the refraction of light, they emitted a cold glint. The moment its claws landed on the ground, A powerful and terrifying aura broke out. Endless electric currents flowed endlessly on its huge body. Along with its roar, the surrounding trees were uprooted by a strong gust of wind. Bang bang bang. There were a few sounds of profound energy colliding. The wind blades released by Yiqing Luo were all blocked by this gust of wind. Not only were they blocked, the three-eyed heavenly beast's body was covered with electric currents as it rushed towards Yiqing Luo at an extremely fast speed. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes flashed. TSK, a demonic beast is indeed powerful. She moved her feet and her body was like a flame, flashing away from the attack of the heavenly beast. Roar! Roar roar roar. The heavenly beast's claws scratched the ground a few times after Yiqing Luo dodged its attack, giving out a warning growl. A pair of sharp beast eyes flashed with a sharp murderous aura. Are we going to get serious? Yiqing Luo tilted her head, her long and narrow eyes raised up with a faint smile. Her gaze swept to Qi Yan. How many heavenly beasts will join the battle this time? The three-eyed heavenly beast and she could not reach an agreement. In the end, there was only one outcome left, either you die or I live. Three-eyed heavenly beasts usually form a team of 10. Qi Yan replied, there are at least 2 teams of heavenly beasts nearby. That was, at least more than 20. One heavenly beast was already so terrifying. If there were another 20, she really could not continue to act tough anymore. Not only 2 teams, if the few of us join the battle, it is likely to attract more three-eyed heavenly beasts and even other demonic beasts. Qi Yan looked at Yiqing Luo's thoughtful expression and very kindly added a sentence. Yiqing Luo, a cold song was given to her. Since when were there so many mutated magical beasts? Heaven-defying mutated magical beasts like the three-eyed heaven-reaching beasts appeared in large numbers. Were they buying one and giving the other away? So, are we going to raise our hands and surrender? Yiqing Luo looked at Qi Yan. Surrender? I don't even know how to write the word surrender. Qi Yan flapped his wings and cried out, stupid human, you are the master of this sacred beast. If you dare to surrender and lose this sacred beast's face, this sacred beast will. I will burn you. Yiqing Luo, if you don't want to surrender, then you might as well be straightforward and give me a way to deal with the heaven-reaching beast. Also, it was a battle pet with a blood contract. Even a saint beast wouldn't be able to bear the consequences of killing its master. While Yiqing Luo and Qi Yan were conversing, the huge body of the three-eyed heavenly beast had rushed to the front of Yiqing Luo in the blink of an eye. The speed was so fast that even Yiqing Luo was secretly amazed. Fortunately, Qi transformed into her battle form in time and threw Yiqing Luo onto her back. He dodged the attack of the heaven-reaching beast. The huge snow-white tiger beast had a pair of red tiger eyes, which made people shudder. The heaven-reaching beast pounced on empty air. It opened its mouth wide, trying to bite Yiqing Luo to pieces in one fell swoop. After seeing the sudden appearance of the huge white tiger. Chapter 3285. Its gaze wandered back and forth between Qi and Yiqing Luo. No wonder, this human is safe and sound here. Qi's limbs were ablaze as it floated in midair. The usually adorable and silly Qi. At this moment, the majesty of a sacred beast was fully displayed. A pair of red and enchanting tiger eyes stared at it coldly. I haven't appeared in the beast clan for a long time. Now, demonic beasts like you can bully my master? You also know that you haven't appeared for a long time. The heaven-reaching beast didn't have any reaction. It wasn't afraid of the majesty of a sacred beast. It was extremely calm. Now is not the era of you sacred beasts. If you don't want to die here with this human, get out of our territory. F***CK. You lowly demonic beast, what did you say? You lowly magical beasts think you can be compared to this holy beast? Qi Yan couldn't stand the disdain of demonic beasts towards sacred beasts. It immediately fluttered its wings and transformed into its battle form. It spat out a flame at the three-eyed heaven-reaching beast. No matter how long it has been, sacred beasts are sacred beasts and demonic beasts are demonic beasts. You lowly demonic beasts will never be able to surpass sacred beasts. The power of the vermilion bird's flame had been suppressed. It was enough to burn the fur of the heaven-reaching beast into a ball. The heaven-reaching beast let out a painful wail. A pair of sharp eyes stared at Qi Yan with resentment. Qi Yan was emitting the vermilion bird's flame. Its pair of red eyes carried the arrogance of a sacred beast. Little demonic beast, do you really think this sacred beast is afraid of you? Come on. This sacred beast will fight to the death with you. See how this sacred beast beats you until you call me father. Roar. The heaven-reaching beast quickly rolled on the ground. But the flame burning on its body couldn't be extinguished. The sizzling sound of burning quickly engulfed the green fur on the heaven-reaching beast's body. Not long after, the air was filled with the fragrance of roasted meat. Yiqing Luo, Qi Ao Jiao was indeed Qi Ao Jiao. It seemed that they had to fight this battle. Yiqing Luo's fingertips turned the glower flame fan. Just as he was about to release his dark force and start the battle mode, a gust of wind blew over. Amidst the rustling of the leaves, he could vaguely hear extremely rhythmic and aggressive footsteps. Not only that, there was also the faint sound of very discordant footsteps. The three-eyed heavenly beast's companions had arrived. Yiqing Luo's charming eyes contracted slightly. Suddenly, a ray of brilliance flashed past. Just as Qi Yan and Qi Qi were about to pounce on the sky-reaching beast that was being burned by the vermilion bird bright fire to prove their majesty as holy beasts, Yiqing Luo suddenly cried out, "Wait!" The two little sacred beasts abruptly stopped their movements. In unison, they turned their heads towards Yiqing Luo. "Come back." Yiqing Luo beckoned and said, "Qi Yan, extinguish the fire." Qi Yan shouted angrily, "Extinguished? This holy beast is going to burn this ungrateful demonic beast to death." Annihilated. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly and emphasized her tone. Qi Qi glanced at Qi Yan, then drooped her head and step by step, returned to Yiqing Luo's side. Qi Yan's eyes were about to burst into flames. But it still listened to Yiqing Luo's command and unwillingly waved its wings to extinguish the fire on the heaven-reaching beast. It flew to the branch at the side and raised its neck high, showing a sulky look at Yiqing Luo. The fire was extinguished, but it still couldn't save the heaven-reaching beast's fur. Chapter 3286. Vermilion, bird, sacred, beast. A hoarse, sharp, murderous voice spat out from the mouth of the heavenly beast. It opened and closed. He bared his cold fangs, dripping a viscous liquid. There was no need for Qi Yan to explain. Yiqing Luo also knew that the liquid secreted from the mouth of the heavenly beast was absolutely poisonous. The heavenly beast's resentful eyes stared fiercely in the direction of Qi Yan. The flames on its body soared and the huge claws on the ground dug the ground bit by bit. "Little demon beast, do you want to challenge this sacred beast's power? This sacred beast will fulfill your wish." The provoked Qi Yan flapped its wings and set off a raging flame. "Even if this sacred beast is not at its peak, it's easy to abuse you." Qi Yan. Yiqing Luo spoke again, glancing at Qi Yan standing on the branch. Qi Yan was full of anger and the flames shrouding its body were extinguished bit by bit. But its pair of burning eyes stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo believed. If it wasn't because of the blood contract. Perhaps. Qi Yan wanted to throw a fire at her. Qi Yan stopped its fire because of Yiqing Luo's order. But it didn't mean that the heavenly beast would stop its attack. All the hair on his body was charred black. It couldn't wait to pluck out Qi Yan's phoenix feathers. For the group of demon beasts who lived in the forbidden area isolated from the world for hundreds of years. The so-called four great sacred beasts were only a distant legend. Especially now. The beast power on Qi Yan and Qi Qi was obviously far from the legend. In their own territory. Even if they were sacred beasts, so what? The heavenly beast suddenly stopped digging the ground with its claws. Murderous aura, broke out at this moment, "Master!" Chi widened its eyes and bit Yi Qing Luo's sleeve. "Heavenly beast really wants to kill Little Flame. If Master doesn't let Little Flame do it, Little Flame will die." Yi Qing Luo's face was still calm. Under Chi's urgent cry, the heavenly beast turned into lightning and went straight to Qi Yan on the branch. Green light flickered. Bam! Majestic strength Qi spread out mightily. The enormous body of the sky-reaching beast seemed to have collided with something, resulting in a loud collision sound. With a muffled groan, Jiao Tutu's body leaped into the air and landed steadily on the ground. It raised its head high, took a look at Qi Yan and immediately turned its gaze towards Yi Qing Luo. Seeing the girl close the glowing flame fan, the anger in his eyes deepened. At the moment of its attack, Scarlet Flame spread its wings and fled to another branch. Just as it was about to catch up with the mountain, a powerful dark force flew over from the right. The dark force formed a barrier that blocked it. Damn humans! He really wanted to bite her into pieces. The gaze of the heaven-reaching beast became even more ruthless and terrifying. However, under this kind of gaze, the young girl's expression did not change. She lazily waved the devouring flame fan at her fingertips and said, "Tong Tian beast, just because I asked my little companions to stop doesn't mean that you can attack them." The girl's voice was very light, and there was not the slightest fluctuation in her emotions. It was like a calm lake, without a single ripple. Roar! The heaven-reaching beast let out an angry, warning growl. Yi Qing Luo smiled, but that smile did not reach the bottom of her eyes. "Tong Tian beast, we are preparing to leave the forbidden area. Are you sure you still want to fight?" "Master." When Chi heard this sentence, his drooping ears instantly stood up, even his white tail stood up high. Chapter 3287. Yi Qing Luo rubbed its big head and corrected it, "We'll leave the forbidden area together." But Chi panicked. Although their master's purpose of entering the forbidden area had not been precisely mentioned between them. But wasn't it very clear in their hearts? The purpose had not been achieved. Master was about to leave? Then, what should they do? Chi's heart was completely submissive to Yi Qing Luo. No matter how many words it had in its heart, it couldn't say them out. But Qi Yan was different. Qi Yan, who had always been used to doing things his own way, immediately rushed to Yi Qing Luo, scarlet eyes, staring at Yi Qing Luo. "Leave? We've come all the way here and you say leave? Stupid human, this sacred beast will never leave with you." The atmosphere was tense between the human and the two beasts. On the other hand, the murderous Tong Tian beast, upon hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, instantly dissipated. It looked warily at the human and two beasts in front of it, listening to their conversation, slowly narrowing its eyes. Chi's pleading gaze and Qi Yan's fiendish accusatory gaze. Yi Qing Luo's attention was always on the beast. Naturally, she didn't miss the action of the beast. Her lips curved imperceptibly, as if she didn't listen to Qi Yan's words at all, staring fixedly at the beast. "Or, do you want to fight? Humans have always been cunning." The beast said coldly, "I don't believe you." Yi Qing Luo shrugged, "No one has entered this forbidden area for hundreds of years. I'm here just to follow a challenge. I'll leave the forbidden area as long as I pick the gold magnetic spirit grass." The beast's eyes flickered slightly. Its gaze on Yi Qing Luo also eased up a little. Yi Qing Luo hid the deep meaning in her eyes. Sure enough, her guess was right. No matter how she ridiculed in her heart, her face was still calm and indifferent. The beast pondered for a moment and looked towards the southwest direction. "The gold magnetic spirit grass is over there. Leave immediately after you pick it." Yi Qing Luo. What a surprise. The connecting heaven beast was extremely cooperative. She didn't need to spend any more time to find the location of the gold magnetic spirit grass. Yi Qing Luo smiled as her eyes squinted. "Many thanks, I'll slip away now." With that, she hooked Chi's neck and waved to Qi Yan, "Let's go." Qi Yan turned his head angrily and refused to listen to her. Yi Qing Luo didn't continue to persuade him. Hugging Chi-Chi, he stroked Shiju, who had been silent and in a daze from beginning to end. Turning around, he walked in the direction the Tong Tian beast had pointed. Chi-Chi's ears and tail drooped. He looked back 3 times with every step. He wanted to stay, but he couldn't resist his master's orders. Shiju also had a posture of turning back 3 times with every step. However, it wasn't because he wanted to stay behind and fight against the heaven-reaching beast. Shiju's gaze was looking in the direction of the depths of the forest from start to end, very dazed. 1 man and 2 beasts left just like that. Scarlet flame fluttered on the branch for a while. Seeing that Yiqing Luo really didn't wait for it or had the intention to obey it. It was so angry that it let out a clear cry. Then, its scarlet eyes glared fiercely at the heaven-reaching beast. Spreading its wings, it flew towards Yiqing Luo's direction. Qi Yan was still extremely angry. Although it followed Yiqing Luo's footsteps, but it was still angry with Yiqing Luo and didn't want to get close. Yiqing Luo headed straight towards the southwest direction. Her footsteps were light and brisk. Very soon, 1 man and 3 beasts were far away from the place where the heaven-reaching beast was. About a few 100 meters away. Yiqing Luo slowly retracted the perception that she had released. She stopped in her tracks. Chapter 3288. Chi-Chi's eyes were full of hesitation, the pitiful look was lovable. Shiju didn't have any extra eyes, just stared at Yiqing Luo blankly, but its mind had long been empty. 1 person and 2 beasts stopped. Qi Yan hovered in the air, holding back a belly full of anger. Seeing Yiqing Luo stop, it swooped down, staring at her and said angrily, "Stupid human. A heaven-reaching beast scared you like this? Don't you believe in the strength of this sacred beast? Just a mediocre demonic beast, this sacred beast can fight 10. It was so angry that it kept howling, circling around Yiqing Luo. The vibrating wings brought up the surrounding air. Set off a gust of hurricane, blowing Yiqing Luo's hair wildly. This sacred beast making a contract with a coward like you is really the worst choice this sacred beast has made since its birth. Qi Yan was obviously very angry, the words in its heart, completely without thinking, flew out. This sacred beast really thought that you would be that person. Little White, you simply recognized the wrong person. How could a rookie like her be that person? Qi Yan. Chi suddenly roared. The clear and crisp voice of a child had an irresistible deterrent force. This roar brought Qi Yan back to his senses from his anger. After meeting Chi's warning eyes, Qi Yan's sharp beak opened and closed a bit, as if it wanted to say something. Finally, it snorted heavily and turned its head away. Qi Yan's words under rage. Yiqing Luo heard it very clearly. Coupled with Chi's rare low roar, Yiqing Luo couldn't help but be curious. Who was that person Qi Yan was talking about? In the beginning, Chi took the initiative to find her and become her battle pet. Although Qi Yan disliked her in every way, but in July, it took the initiative to choose the blood contract. This kind of blood contract, which handed over its life to her. Both of them were ancient sacred beasts. High and mighty, incomparably noble. It wasn't that she hadn't thought about why the sacred beast would choose her. It was just that, she had been deliberately avoiding this question. Because, she knew. If Chi or Qi Yan wanted to say. From the beginning, they would tell her. If you don't want to say it. Once the words were made clear, the relationship between her and Chi or Qi Yan was likely to change. In fact, even her life was going to change. Therefore, she didn't ask or think too deeply about it. Today, under the extreme wrath of Qi Yan, Yiqing Luo finally understood, some hidden reason. Because he had mistaken her for someone else? Master, Chi called out to her in a low and crisp voice. There was a hint of caution in his voice. Since when did her Chi become so cautious around her? Yiqing Luo closed her eyes slightly, and when she opened them again, the corners of her lips had already curled up into a slight smile. Reaching out, she caressed Chi-Chi's head and smiled warmly. It's all right. I understand how you guys feel. Yiqing Luo's smile made Chi-Chi stunned. Its tiger eyes stared blankly at Yiqing Luo's smiling eyes. Yiqing Luo continued, you should believe me. Since I've entered the forbidden grounds, I will not return empty-handed. In the end, she did not choose to forcefully get to the bottom of it. She knew very well that Chi-Chi would answer her as long as she asked. But, she didn't want to see Chi-Chi in a difficult situation. Then, pretend that she didn't listen carefully to Qi Yan's reprimand. Chapter 3289. Yiqing Luo waved to Qi Yan, who was still twisting his little head with a, I'm still angry, look. Be good, the three of you, change back to your pet form first. Chi-Chi's body swayed and turned into a snow-white kitten, leaping onto Yiqing Luo's shoulder. Shiju was absent-minded, but it still obeyed Yiqing Luo's orders. Qi Yan swung its long neck and snorted heavily. Its mouth expressed its disdain. But its body was very honest as it turned into a little bird and burrowed into Yiqing Luo's hair. At the same time, Yiqing Luo's figure quickly flashed and sneaked into the lush forest. Holding her breath, condensing her qi. Hiding in the forest was her best skill. There was no need to worry about moving the surrounding vegetation and making a sound, which would attract the attention of other creatures in this forbidden area. Because, wherever Yiqing Luo went, there was no sound at all. But after a while, this one person and three beasts returned in a forward state. Yiqing Luo used her mental power to explain to her three companions, the reason why I said that I want to leave in front of the heavenly beasts is not because I'm afraid of wasting time, but, if we were to make a move, those heavenly beasts hidden in the surroundings would immediately rush up. From the sound of their footsteps, it's not as simple as two teams of beasts. You and Chi-Chi can face most of them, but Shiju and I are very likely to have an accident. If we really fight, we won't be able to gain any advantage. Chi-Chi knows that Master is the smartest. Chi-Chi put on a look of infatuation. Master is right, everything Master says is right. Qi Yan, humph. Also, didn't you notice that the beast seems to be eager for us to leave the forbidden area? Yiqing Luo's charming eyes curved slightly as she smiled slyly. Chi-Chi tilted its little head, seems. Yes. Yiqing Luo nodded, especially when I suggested to leave. It didn't even take revenge for its fur being burnt by Qi Yan, and wholeheartedly didn't want to be entangled with us. I don't think it's afraid of me or you two sacred beasts. If we ask it before contacting me, its reaction is very likely. My guess is that this bunch of heaven-reaching beasts might be planning something. If we continue to tangle with them and delay them, our plans will be ruined. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. She had another feeling, but she didn't say it. She had a feeling that the heaven-reaching beast seemed to know who she was. He really didn't want her to continue staying in the Forbidden Land. It was also because of this feeling. In the end, she told him about the bet she made with Hao Nanren outside the forbidden area. As expected, this confirmed her suspicions. The reaction of the heaven-reaching beast told it. The heaven-reaching beast knew about the bet between her and Hao Nanren. How could the demonic beasts in the Forbidden Land know what was happening outside? Therefore, Yiqing Luo was suspicious. That was why he was acting like this. Sneak back and find the truth. Qi Yan's arrogant head finally turned towards Yiqing Luo. After analyzing it, the heaven-reaching beast's attitude was indeed strange. One man and three beasts. After the explanation, the atmosphere eased up. At this moment, they stealthily hid in the darkness where they had fought with the heaven-reaching beast. Just as he approached, Yiqing Luo's expression congealed slightly as she immediately stopped in her tracks, concealing all her presence. Only to see. At the place where they had been standing earlier. It was surrounded by at least 50 three-eyed heavenly beasts. Those gigantic heaven-reaching beasts were imposing and awe-inspiring, their bodies flowing like lightning. Chapter 3290. One by one, the Tong Tian beasts roared and made all sorts of noises. Yiqing Luo couldn't understand the beast language. But the three companions beside her understood. Hence, Chi successfully took on the role of translator. In the middle of the Tong Tian beasts was Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast. In front of it stood two larger but obviously old-looking Tong Tian beasts. The old Tong Tian beast asked, "Are you sure that the human has left?" Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast snorted coldly, "Of course, didn't you see her leaving with your own eyes?" The old Tong Tian beast sighed, "The plan is at the end and we can end it soon. We can't make any mistakes, otherwise, our demonic beast clan will be annihilated. When will that thing wake up?" Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast asked impatiently. The old Tong Tian beast drooped his head, "There's no specific time. If that thing can wake up soon, then we won't need to be controlled by others." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast's eyes were filled with killing intent. The old Tong Tian beast asked worriedly, "Are you sure that the human has really left? The people over there said very clearly that we absolutely can't let that human collide with that thing." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast said, "Haven't the people over there investigated very clearly? That human entered the forbidden zone because of the challenge. She will leave after picking the gold magnetic spirit grass." A group of heaven-reaching beasts were chattering non-stop in their beast language. These beast language, through Chi's translation, fell into Yiqing Luo's ears. That thing? The people over there? Her guess was right. The Tong Tian beasts indeed had some kind of plan. To urge her to leave. To prevent her from spoiling their plans. And this group of demonic beasts who lived in the forbidden zone, isolated from the outside world, there was indeed another person behind the scenes, manipulating them from behind. These big pieces of information made Chi shake her little head as she excitedly stuck out her tongue at Chi Yan. "Little Yan see, Master is so smart, retreating in order to advance. This is called a strategy." Chi Yan snorted coldly as he turned his head away arrogantly. "Stop fooling around," Yiqing Luo said as she patted Chi's head. "There's someone." "Someone?" One Chi immediately turned her head and looked in the direction of her master's gaze. A figure could be vaguely seen walking out from the group of heaven-reaching beasts. That person was shrouded in a black cloak. Even his face was covered by a black veil, making it impossible to see his appearance. "Ha! Idiot!" As soon as that person appeared, he sneered at Jiao Tutu's heaven-connecting beast. His tone was cold and full of ridicule. "You don't understand how treacherous and cunning that scoundrel is. If I don't see that scoundrel leave the forbidden area with my own eyes, I won't be able to feel at ease." The black-robed man's attitude caused Jiao Tuatu's heaven-reaching beast to show disgust in its eyes. However, it tried its best to endure it. Facing the black-robed man, Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast spoke in the human language. "He's just an ordinary human being with two sacred beasts by his side. He doesn't even dare to fight with me. How can you be so concerned about him? Don't look down on that guy. Hurry up and get your men to chase after that scoundrel. We must ensure that the scoundrel has really left this place." The black-robed man ordered sternly. "You're making a mountain out of a molehill." Jiao Tutu's Tong Tian beast refused. There were two sacred beasts by that human's side. Even its feathers had been burned by the vermilion bird. It was unwilling to let its companions chase after him. If Vermilion Bird found out. Chapter 3291. The black-robed man sneered. His sharp and hoarse voice was extremely ear-piercing. "Good. Not going to chase? If you spoil the palace lord's plan, the demonic beast clan, just wait to die." Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast suddenly raised its head. Its beast eyes were sinister as it stared at the black-robed man. The raging anger in its eyes was like it was about to ignite. The black-robed man was indifferent. His breath was filled with a mocking coldness. The heaven-reaching beast was furious and unwilling, but it couldn't do anything to the human in front of it. It gritted its teeth and used beast language to order the heaven-reaching beast next to it, "Go. Follow that human and watch her leave, then come back to report." The heaven-reaching beast roared, indicating that it accepted the order. Immediately, its long claws moved and it dashed towards the southwest direction. Jiao Tutu's heaven-reaching beast's eyes were sinister. "Now, are you satisfied?" The black-robed man snorted coldly, arrogantly walking among the huge heaven-reaching beasts. Yiqing Luo, who was hiding in the dark. The moment she saw the black-robed man appear, the corners of his mouth curled up into a sinister smile. She wasn't unfamiliar with the black-robed man. Just hearing the black-robed man's voice, she recognized him, Feng Ling. The black-robed man was Feng Ling. She didn't expect Feng Ling would actually appear here. This was the forbidden area of the East Continent. Didn't Qi Yan say that in this forbidden land, it was fatal for humans? Why did Feng Ling look like she was safe and sound? Looking at the interaction between Feng Ling and the heaven-reaching beast, the heaven-reaching beast had a tolerant attitude towards Feng Ling. Obviously, the person behind the heaven-reaching beast was related to the Palace of Darkness. Palace of Darkness, the awakening of that thing. Could it be that the Palace of Darkness was thinking of? A thought flashed past her mind. Yiqing Luo's eyes flashed, a trace of biting cold flashed past her eyes. If it was really like what she thought, then this time, she must interfere and destroy the plan of the Palace of Darkness. Just as she was pondering, Yiqing Luo suddenly sensed a slight noise behind her. Her ears twitched. She was about to use her footwork to escape. But it was too late. A cold voice came from behind him. "Who is it?" This voice was like a mechanical voice, rigid and without any fluctuation of words. Compared to Mo Yuying's mechanical and lifeless voice, this voice was even more soulless. Yiqing Luo knew that since she had been discovered, she couldn't hide anymore. She calmly stood up from the dark and slowly turned around. Her half-squinted eyes reflected the scene behind her. In front of him were 5 tall men in black armor. Their expressions were indifferent, and their eyes were lifeless. They looked like 5 statues standing before him. Yiqing Luo was very close. From these 5 men, he could clearly feel a bone-chilling coldness. Yiqing Luo frowned slightly when he saw the 5 men. Yiqing Luo obviously felt a shapeless pressure spreading in the air. Who was this person? He had actually appeared on her body without a sound. Until they got close, she could barely make out their movements. No, to be more precise, if it wasn't for the sound of friction when they approached her, she absolutely couldn't sense the approaching of these 5 men. At least for now, facing these 5 men, she couldn't sense their presence at all. These 5 men, who on earth were they? They were actually so terrifying. Yiqing Luo held her glower flame fan in vigilance and immediately retreated backwards. She retreated out of the attacking range of the 5 men. Chapter 3292. The alluring red figure was like the setting sun, flashing past her eyes. "Who is it?" Feng Ling cried out in alarm. Following the voice, she looked towards the direction of the figure. She saw the girl she hated the most, dressed in a long red dress, against the light that shone through the gap, standing on the tree branch. The red dress fluttered, the green color fluttered. The girl's face was like a peach blossom, a beauty that could topple a city. Especially that pair of eyes that seemed to bear thousands of assimilation, flowing with countless flirtatious colors. Feng Ling had always known that Yiqing Luo was very beautiful. And that kind of beauty was soul-stirring, not daring to blaspheme. But every time she saw Yiqing Luo, she still couldn't help but be awed by Yiqing Luo's suffocating charm. Especially now, seeing such beauty, she only felt endless hatred spreading in her heart. Because of Yiqing Luo. Because of Yiqing Luo, she became like this. Feng Ling's hatred was not concealed at all. The person who was hated curled her pink lips, calmly met that pair of eyes, which were filled with hatred, and smiled lightly. "What a coincidence, I didn't expect to see you here." As she spoke, Yiqing Luo tilted her head, her long and narrow eyes, because of this action, looked even deeper and more demonic. should I say that we are fated, or should I say that we are enemies on a narrow road? Feng Ling's body tensed up, the two eyes under the black veil stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. That hoarse and sharp voice, as if it had been chased by a saw, was very ear-piercing. You really didn't leave. Good, very good. Since you insist on coming back to die, I will let you. Never leave this place. Feng Ling's hands clenched into fists, her face was extremely sinister. Her hands, which were raised on her waist, were tightened because of the agitation. The black robe was pulled open, revealing a trace of skin. Yiqing Luo just took a glance, and the expression in her eyes changed immediately. That glance made her shocked. Because that small part of Feng Ling's skin was covered with patches of green and red, pitted marks. It looked extremely disgusting. Yiqing Luo's gaze quickly shifted to Feng Ling's face. Sure enough. Under the black veil, although it was not clear, one could still vaguely see that Feng Ling's face was also covered in green and red marks. What was going on? What kind of mark was this? Wind Chime's face and body, could it be that they had all become so ghastly? Ah! No one is allowed to look. I forbid you to look. Feng Ling was aware of Yiqing Luo's line of sight. She suddenly went crazy and quickly pulled up her black robe to cover her skin. But because of this overbearing action, he pulled his black robe to cover the place which Yiqing Luo was looking at earlier, but the other side was exposed. Those potholes, traces of green and red, were clearly exposed in front of Yiqing Luo's eyes. Feng Ling became even crazier. Her face was contorted and she kept roaring. His two hands were desperately pulling on his body. The more impatient he was, the more he wanted to conceal himself. The black robe on her body and the black veil on her face became even more entangled. His frenzied appearance was very much like that of a violent beast. After going berserk for half an incense's time, Feng Ling simply tore off the black robe on her body, no longer concealing herself. On her body, there was no part of her skin that was intact. No matter if it was her face or the exposed skin. All of them were densely packed marks. It was so disgusting that he almost vomited. This was simply more terrifying than disfigurement. Chapter 3293. Her face was ferocious, her facial features were distorted and the potholes on her face were squeezed even more clearly. I've been completely ruined by you. You're very happy, aren't you? Feng Ling slowly cupped her face and laughed maniacally. You made me lose my face, lose everything. I can no longer snatch Brother D away. You're very proud, you're very happy, aren't you? She laughed and laughed as tears rolled down her cheeks. Looking at Feng Ling's crazed look, it was obvious that she had lost her mind. Yiqing Luo expressed that there was no fluctuation in her heart, she even wanted to laugh. Feng Ling's accusation also made her feel very amused. Yiqing Luo spread her arms and slowly jumped down from the branch, landing in front of Feng Ling. Her wide sleeves fluttered down like a butterfly spreading its wings. It was incomparably gorgeous. This scene caused the expression on Feng Ling's face to become even more twisted. Feng Ling, was it me who ruined you or you who ruined yourself? Yiqing Luo's eyes were calm as she spoke. The shock of Feng Ling's disfigurement also disappeared under Feng Ling's accusation. She curled her lips coldly, and, correction, don't say it as if you could snatch Ah Xian away before you were disfigured. Gotcha, this sentence completely broke Feng Ling's taut thread. She raised her hands stiffly, bent them and hugged her head as a deafening roar erupted from her mouth, following Feng Ling's crazy roar. With her as the center, the ground began to ripple like the waves of the sea. Even in the air, there were layers of ripples. Endless energy surged and rolled. Just as this force was about to strike Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo moved her 5 fingers, the glower flame fan drew a bright red light and formed a barrier that enveloped her. The lush trees were uprooted. The flying sand and stones were horrifying. The surrounding heaven-reaching beasts, under this energy, embedded their sharp claws deep into the ground and barely avoided being blown away by the strong wind. In the barrier, Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes and stared at Feng Ling, who was surging with energy, secretly surprised. If her memory served her right, Feng Ling should be completely without any profound energy left. She purposely returned the butterfly saint technique to the palace of gloomy darkness. It was to make the butterfly saint technique and wind chime kill each other. How could wind chime still have power? Her plans seemed to have deviated. Stupid human being, what are you doing to anger her? The voice of Qi Yan came from the hair, and its small head popped out. It glanced at Feng Ling with disdain in its eyes. Didn't I say that the aura of this forbidden land has a special power that is fatal to humans? Yiqing Luo nodded her head. She, and those 5 monsters, to be able to stand here, they can't even be considered humans. Qi Yan's sharp mouth pointed to the 5 men who had discovered Yiqing Luo's whereabouts, especially that woman. In order to stand here, she has paid a great price. Not human. Monster. Perhaps it was because he had heard this word too many times. In Yiqing Luo's mind, suddenly surfaced, dead corpse puppet, these 4 words. When these 4 words appeared in her mind, Yiqing Luo quivered, a trace of surprise flashed past her eyes. Right, dead corpse puppet. The Palace of Darkness was the birthplace of the dead corpse puppet. Chapter 3294. Whereas Feng Ling and those 5 men were able to stand here without any abnormalities. In addition, Feng Ling had no profound energy, but now she could release a power that even the Tong Tian beast could not resist. There was only one possibility. Yiqing Luo's eyes widened as she stared at Feng Ling. You have become a corpse puppet? Not only Feng Ling. The 5 men were also undead corpse puppets. But what made Yiqing Luo suspicious was corpse puppets should have no consciousness and only knew how to follow the instructions of the person controlling them. But Feng Ling obviously had her own consciousness. No matter if it was her speech or expression, there was no difference from usual. As for those 5 men, although their speech was mechanical and their eyes were empty, but they had their own consciousness and didn't feel like they were being controlled by someone. Yiqing Luo's words made the raging Feng Ling's eyes flash with a trace of murderous intent. But very quickly, Feng Ling didn't have the slightest bit of bashfulness as she raised her head with a sinister smile. Yes, I am a corpse puppet. She gave a few cold laughs as her venomous gaze stared at Yiqing Luo without blinking. The strength qi enveloping his body was still rising. Yiqing Luo, your methods to deal with those defective products are useless against me. Feng Ling sneered, the Palace of Darkness had transformed me into the latest type of corpse puppet. Which is also a completed corpse puppet. From Feng Ling's words, it sounded as though she was extremely proud of herself for becoming a corpse puppet. However, the resentment in her eyes and the unwillingness in her reddened eyes revealed her true thoughts in the bottom of her heart. If it was possible, who would want to become a monster that was neither human nor ghost? She was not human. But she had a human consciousness and human habits. She was invulnerable, impervious to fire and water and didn't feel pain. But after all, she was a human shell. Her body was full of bumps and bruises, which was a ghastly sight. It was the various torture methods that the Palace of Darkness used to test this type of completed corpse puppet. Burning, drowning, burying and even attacking her with all their might. And she couldn't hide or evade. She could only endure one after another. Experiment. She didn't know pain. However, his skin had been destroyed in the many experiments he had been experimenting with. Until the experiment ended. Only then was she released and sent to this forbidden area. From the beginning to the end, she had no right to choose. All of this, it was all thanks to this rascal in front of him. If it wasn't for Yiqing Luo, if it wasn't for the fact that she had specially released the butterfly saint technique, which she had been torturing for a few days, back to the Anyo Palace. There was no way she could have caught the attention of the palace master, much less become the first batch of experimental subjects. Feng Ling could not recall the scene at that time. After the butterfly Saint Law returned to the Palace of Darkness, she claimed that she had come to the Palace of Darkness as a spy for Dmo Xian. The plan to invade the South Waves continent was originally going smoothly. It was because of Feng Ling's interference, secretly passing the news and revealing the location of the South continent's base to Dmo Xian. That was why the South Below continent's plan failed. Moreover, even the person whom the palace master wanted to bring back, the island sage of the godless island, Mo Yuing, was not brought back. In short, the sacred butterfly technique pushed all the blame for the failure of the mission onto Wind Chime. No matter how much Wind Chimes tried to explain herself, the loss of power this time caused no one in the Palace of Darkness to believe in her. Although the palace lord did not completely believe the butterfly saint technique's words. Chapter 3295. She and the butterfly saint technique had become the first batch of finished corpse puppets to be refined. But she was luckier than the butterfly saint technique. The Palace of Seclusion used an extremely bold refining method. They directly used a batch of excellent bone structure and had been nourished by miraculous pills and elixirs since young as experimental subjects. During the refining process, the butterfly saint technique had become the first failed product due to the corrosion of Yiqing Luo's poison. Failed products were waste. The palace lord directly extracted the butterfly saint technique's soul and threw it into the container to become the corpse puppet's fodder. And she, Feng Ling. It was based on his strong willpower and hatred towards Yiqing Luo. Withstood it. She was transformed until she was neither human nor ghost, her face and body were destroyed. What supported Feng Ling now was only the hatred towards Yiqing Luo and the desire to seek revenge. Yiqing Luo, even if I die, I will drag you along. To hell. Following Feng Ling's sharp howl filled with hatred, the energy in her body surged wildly. The long whip that was drawn from her waist was like a nimble poisonous snake, tearing the air apart. Energy surged. Sand and stones flew, gravel flew, and trees flew. The ground was also cracking with a rumbling sound. Feng Ling, who was raging with hatred, the black aura surrounding her became more and more intense. Almost as though she was going to drown her completely. Boundless murderous intent emanated from the energy she released, spreading outwards. Crack, a crisp tearing sound could be heard. The enchantment around Yiqing Luo's body was actually broken through by this gust of energy. Feng Ling's eyes turned cold as her lips curled into a sly sneer. Her hands clenched into fists and raised upwards. In an instant, the black energy in her body boiled to the peak. Crack, 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 the enchantment was completely broken. The majestic hurricane was like a huge whirlpool, stirring the surrounding air as it pounced downwards. Yiqing Luo was covered by Feng Ling's black energy in an instant. The young lady's fine black hair was blown by the strong wind and was in a mess. Her eyebrows sunk slightly. She had to admit that towards Feng Ling's current strength, she was indeed surprised. But it was true. Feng Ling was a spirit formation master. The reason why Dmo Xian summoned Feng Ling was to help her break the barrier. It could be seen that Feng Ling's attainments in enchantment were higher than Dmo Xian's. It was not surprising that he could break through her barrier. What are you waiting for? Since this slut refuses to leave this place obediently, kill her directly. Feng Ling saw Yiqing Luo's enchantment was broken and a maniacal smile flashed past her eyes. The 5 men furrowed their brows, as if they weren't willing to make a move. As for the Tong Tian beasts, they were almost unable to withstand the black qi emitted by Feng Ling, so how could they possibly split their attention to attack Yiqing Luo? Wind Chime's gaze turned fierce. Don't forget the palace master's orders. This person has already eavesdropped on our conversation and knows our goal. The only thing they could do now was to kill her if they wanted to stop this scoundrel from colliding with that thing. Otherwise, if the mission fails, none of us will be able to escape. When the 5 men heard the 2 words, Palace Master, they vaguely reacted. Their brows furrowed even tighter. Extremely unwilling, they walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The surging and majestic black strength qi seemed to have no effect on the 5 men at all. In just a moment, the 5 men had already stood in front of Yiqing Luo. Chapter 3296. TSK. It had already become the latest type of corpse puppets and still needed to call for help to fight against her. How much did Feng Ling fear her in her heart? Yiqing Luo shook her glower flame fan and smiled evilly, as if I don't know how to call for help. She opened the glower flame fan and waved it suddenly. The bright red light broke through the spreading black qi in front of her. Immediately after, the young lady tiptoed lightly and soared into the air. On her body, 3 rays of light fell. White light flashed. A giant white tiger suddenly appeared in mid-air, stepping on flames, raised its neck high and let out a terrifying tiger roar. Raging flames burned. The sky was covered by a smear of red light. The red phoenix feathers were overflowing with light, shining brightly. When the wings flapped, there were flames scuttling past. Black light suddenly appeared. This black was much brighter than the spreading black qi in the surroundings. The giant black panther stood in front of Yiqing Luo, firmly protecting the young lady behind it. Its whole body was covered with black fur, like smooth silk. It opened its mouth slightly, revealing sharp fangs. 3 battle pets, divided into 3 sides. 1 person and 3 beasts, even if they didn't move. The 5 men, Feng Ling and the heaven-reaching beasts could feel the majestic aura coming towards them. Looking at the 3 valiant and spirited companions, Yiqing Luo snorted. Who didn't have helpers? Let's see who's the show-off. Just based on these few beasts, how can they call for help? The long whip in Feng Ling's hands suddenly waved, rolling up thousands of wind waves. Even sacred beasts can't cause any harm to our finished corpse puppets. Feng Ling's eyes were scarlet red as she shouted and attacked Yiqing Luo. The 5 men followed closely behind and launched their attacks. Feng Ling's action of releasing profound energy paused. The surging black strength qi in the surroundings also dissipated. The heaven-reaching beasts had just heaved a sigh of relief. Feng Ling's scolding had already pressed down on them. You are a bunch of trash, can't even handle a few sacred beasts? The heaven-reaching beasts had a lot of dissatisfaction towards Feng Ling. But in the current situation, there was indeed no room for it to resist. For a moment, the beasts were entangled. People were entangled. The entire forest was reduced to ruins because of this chaos. In the face of Winchim's suicidal attacks and the 5 men's merciless attacks, Winchim's body trembled. While Yiqing Luo was evading and counterattacking, it became more and more strenuous. Fortunately, she was fast and had a set of footwork that was integrated with the teleportation secret technique. He wasn't in a sorry state. After exchanging a dozen moves, Yiqing Luo felt it deeply. The difference between a finished undead puppet and a half-finished or defective one was obvious. These 5 men did not receive orders. They only knew how to attack blindly. Instead, it was a tacit and tactical attack. There was also wind chimes. Even if Qi Yan, Qi Qi, or Shi Ju can take time to help her reduce some of the pressure. Under the prolonged battle, Yiqing Luo was already unable to evade in time. Although the gourd flame fan, which had been refined by Tang Beiyuan, was somewhat effective against this completed corpse puppet, the gourd flame fan was not a match for the corpse puppet. But in comparison, she was even more embarrassed. Just at this moment, Yiqing Luo was evading one of the men's palm wind, as she quickened her footwork. Her figure had already been seen through. Bang! A palm strike landed directly on Yiqing Luo's chest. Yiqing Luo gave a muffled groan as her feet suddenly sped up. After leaving the attack range, Yiqing Luo gasped lightly as she raised her hand to press on her chest. Yiqing Luo's injury made Feng Ling's face reveal an ecstatic expression. Chapter 3297. Without Brother D by her side. What was she, Yiqing Luo? That scoundrel, did she really think that with her own strength, she could deal with her, with the completed corpse puppets? Today, she wanted Yiqing Luo to die in her hands. She wanted Yiqing Luo to go to hell together. Thinking that Yi Qing Luo would die tragically in her own hands, Feng Ling's heart was indescribably carefree. In front of her, there seemed to be an image of Yi Qing Luo lying on the ground, begging for mercy in a low voice. Ha ha ha. Now, let's go. Kill this scoundrel, kill her. Feng Ling laughed crazily. But she was also worried that the 5 completed corpse puppets would not be so cooperative. She said to the corpse puppets, "That thing is about to awaken, we don't have much time, we'd better speed up." Those 5 men, their figures flashed. Once again pressing towards Yi Qing Luo. The palm strike from the undead corpse puppet just now was not light. Yi Qing Luo felt that her back was torn apart, the pain made her face pale. Seeing the corpse puppets rushing over again, close at hand. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flashed a biting cold, slender fingers, suddenly clenched tightly. A ring on her fingertip, flashing a bewitching red light. Stupid human, don't tell me you want to use the power of the azure aqua ring? Qi Yan sensed the change in Yi Qing Luo's aura, his gaze suddenly became dignified. This place, even if it's the overlord, if he wants to barge in, it will take a lot of time. If you use the power of the azure aqua ring, your profound jade heart will have a problem. This sacred beast will not care about you. Yi Qing Luo raised her right hand, her eyes fixed on the azure aqua ring, the corners of her mouth raised. Nothing will happen, it's something I have contracted. If I have to think about it every time I use it, what use do I have for it? Saying that, she closed her eyes and was about to fuse with the power of the azure aqua ring. Suddenly, her raised right hand was grasped by a cold big hand. That big palm easily suppressed Yi Qing Luo's fingertip, the power of the azure aqua ring. The strange yet familiar touch, coupled with the disappearance of the azure aqua ring's power, made Yi Qing Luo slightly stunned. She suddenly opened her eyes. Under the hurricane, a red figure covered his entire vision. "With me here, there's no need to force yourself." His voice was ice cold, but it carried an irresistible charm. The handsome face before her had an ice-cold expression, and a pair of almond-shaped eyes seemed to be covered in ice. Yi Qing Luo's pink lips moved as she asked in astonishment, "Zhu Wu Xan? Why would you?" Wasn't the person in front of him Zhu Wuxin? Why is he here? Zhu Wu Xan, why would he appear here? "Because I saved you," Zhu Wuxin said indifferently. His expression was cold, and his temperament was icy. He looked as if he had just walked out of an ice house, exuding an eerie chill. Save her? What did that mean? Zhu Wuxin slowly let go of her right hand and stood in front of her in a protective manner. Then, he faced the direction of the undead puppets. The coldness in his body grew even colder. His gaze was like a sharp blade made of 1,000-year-old ice, piercing towards the undead corpse puppets. His eyes were filled with murderous intent and complicated emotions. His back faced Yi Qing Luo. When he opened his mouth, it was obviously for Yi Qing Luo. "Once, you saved me, now, no matter what changes, it's my turn to protect you. This point will never change." This sentence. Like a large bell, it struck heavily on Yi Qing Luo's heart. Chapter 3298. Yi Qing Luo could tell. Although Zhu Wu Xian's tone was indifferent. However, the strength behind those words was so heavy that it caused her heart to sink into a complicated state of mind. Faintly, there was a tinge of guilt. She was unable to repay Zhu Wu Xian's feelings towards her. When they were young, the past with Zhu Wu Xian was ultimately not her. The current her was a brand new Yi Qing Luo, a Yi Qing Luo who only loved Dmo Xian wholeheartedly. How could she bear it? Zhu Wu Xian's wholehearted protection? Looking at the back view in front of her. Yi Qing Luo would rather use the Azure Dew Ring's energy to resolve the current crisis. She also didn't wish for Zhu Wu Xian to appear and save her. Death God Castle's Castle Lord. Towards Zhu Wu Xian's appearance, Feng Ling was extremely astonished. Her eyes widened as she stared intently at Zhu Wu Xian. "Why are you here? Don't you already know everything? Why do you still want to save her? Don't tell me." Don't tell me you really like. Bam! Feng Ling had yet to finish her words. Chu Wuxian's eyebrows rose as his sleeves moved slightly and a majestic force landed directly on Feng Ling's face. Feng Ling was forced to fly backwards by this force as she fell heavily onto the broken rocks. It also stopped Feng Ling's words which she was about to say. Feng Ling fell onto the ground as her eyes blinked hard, in a daze and astonishment. Following that, she slowly sat up straight. There wasn't a single bit of pain on her face. There was only doubt and puzzlement. This was the preferential treatment of a corpse puppet. Not knowing pain. Even if her hands and legs were broken, her brows wouldn't even crease. Whatever this seat wants to do has nothing to do with you. The icy cold words broke Feng Ling's nerves. Feng Ling stood up abruptly as she shook her head in disbelief. No, don't tell me you've forgotten. Forgotten what Palace Lord said? You want to betray. The huge agitation made Feng Ling speechless. She hugged her head as she staggered backwards a few steps. Suddenly, she raised her head as her scarlet venomous gaze stared at Yiqing Luo. You slut. Not only did you seduce Brother D, you even made Castle Lord fall head over heels for you. If Brother D knew that you're such a slut, he would definitely not like you. Yiqing Luo, who was unaccountably implicated, was this her fault again? Why are you so lucky? If Brother D isn't here, the Castle Lord will protect you. What on earth are you busy with, for them to do everything for you? I can't accept this, I can't accept this. Feng Ling screamed in pain. The indignation in her heart gradually grew. Zhu Wuxin's appearance caused the puppets to stop attacking. Looking at Zhu Wuxian's attitude of absolute protection, as he stood in front of Yiqing Luo, Feng Ling's terrifying face was already twisted to the point of deformity. On what basis could Yiqing Luo be so lucky? No matter what kind of danger it was, it could turn misfortune into fortune. Not Brother D. It was the Death God Castle's castle master. She, on the other hand, was humiliated and turned into a monster that was neither human nor ghost. She didn't even feel pain anymore. This body was already riddled with holes. Why didn't her Brother D come to save her when she was in danger? It was all because of Yiqing Luo. Everything was caused by Yiqing Luo. Feng Ling's eyes were filled with madness as her eyes revealed an ominous glint as she looked at Zhu Wuxian with a maniacal gaze. Death God Castle Lord, if you insist on interfering in this matter, then don't blame us for accidentally injuring you. Yiqing Luo must die. As long as Yiqing Luo died. Even if she was punished by Palace Lord, so what? Chapter 3299. The long whip in Feng Ling's hands suddenly swung. When the other corpse puppets saw that, they took a look at Zhu Wuxian and chose to attack directly. That thing was about to awaken. They had no other time to waste here. If the mission failed, the consequences were much more serious than offending Zhu Wuxian. They might as well kill Yiqing Luo first. As long as Palace Lord's mission was completed. Would Palace Lord be calculative about their disrespect towards Zhu Wuxian? They had to admit that these new type of corpse puppets were indeed much more high-end and imposing as compared to those defective products. At least, they knew how to think for themselves. They knew how to choose the most powerful choice for themselves. On seeing the corpse puppets charging forward in unison, Yiqing Luo tugged Zhu Wuxian's arm from behind as she frowned. Zhu Wuxian, you don't need to do this for me. She didn't want to owe Zhu Wuxian any more favors. Really, she couldn't repay him. Zhu Wuxian lowered his eyes as he looked at that slender and fair hand on his arm. His eyes, which had always been cold and emotionless, actually softened a little. On his face, there was a slight smile which was never seen before. Ever since I met you again, it was destined that we would continue to be entangled. You can't escape from it. His voice was suppressed very low. That cold voice had a tinge of indifference. But the words of love which came out, had a kind of an overbearing CEO. Yiqing Luo's eyelashes fluttered as her slender brows creased into a bundle. Not knowing why, she felt that, see you again this time. Zhu Wu Xian had undergone a huge change. If it was in the past, even if he had a brother who specialized in cheating his friends behind his back to give him ideas, Zhu Wu Xian would absolutely not say such warm words. What on earth was going on? From South Tide Continent. After Zhu Wu Xian left the inn with that human face, what had Zhu Wu Xian experienced? Furthermore, or was it something related to her? But now wasn't the time to ask. She pursed her pink lips as she knew that it was impossible for her to stop Zhu Wu Xian's help. She could only try her best to prevent Zhu Wu Xian from worrying too much about her. The corpse puppet's attack had already entered her face. Yiqing Luo gripped her glower flame fan tightly as she swiftly retaliated. Even though her body was already injured, Yiqing Luo's battle power was still abnormally strong. In addition, he had Zhu Wuxin's help. Yiqing Luo's pressure finally wasn't as heavy as before, and that strenuous. Feng Ling and the other undead corpse puppets were constantly looking for opportunities. Time was getting closer and closer. This made them feel more and more pressured. At this moment, the entire forbidden area suddenly surged with an invisible force. Like rolling waves, it swept through every corner of the forbidden area. Even the ground seemed to shake a few times. The ripple only lasted for a breath's time before it disappeared. It was so fast that no one could catch it. However, Feng Ling's face suddenly turned pale. The other corpse puppets also had ashen faces as they looked towards the depths of the forest. Damn it. It couldn't be so coincidental that the time was brought forward, right? Roar. Suddenly, the low roar of a beast rang out. Then, he heard Chi-Chi's panicked voice, "Little Mingju. Little Mingju, what happened to you?" Shiju. Yiqing Luo's breathing paused as she speedily looked towards Shiju's direction. Chapter 3300. Shijue. Yiqing Luo's pupils contracted as her feet moved, taking quick steps towards Shiju's direction. At the same time, he said to Zhu Wuxin, "I'll have to trouble you here." With that, he could no longer wait for Zhu Wu Xian's reply. His feet moved like the wind. Shiju's condition was very wrong. It kept hitting the ground with its head. Moreover, his strength was extremely great. It was as if he was going to smash his own head. The black and shiny leopard head was bleeding from the impact. If he didn't stop Shiju's self-harming behavior, Shiju would smash his head and bleed to death. Right now, she couldn't care less about that at all. On the other side, Qi Yan wanted to stop him. However, the heaven-reaching beast seized this opportunity to attack Shiju. Qi Yan and Chi-Chi could only stand in front of Shiju and block the attacks of the heaven-reaching beasts. Ao ao. Roar. Shiju let out a painful growl. His head hit the ground again and again. Bright red blood had already dyed Shiju's head red. The more Yiqing Luo watched, the more anxious she felt. She pounced forward and hugged Shiju's head, stabilizing its head and not letting it hit it again. Ow! Shiju's mouth gave out a sharp and rough growl as it struggled, trying to struggle free from Yiqing Luo's hands. Yiqing Luo's arms were numb from the flinging. At this time, it was even more impossible for her to release Shiju. His hands tightly held Shiju's head in his embrace, gently stroking its fur, and said warmly, "Shiju, I'm here. With me here, you need to calm down. Tell me where you feel uncomfortable." Perhaps it was her gentle voice that eased Shiju's pain. Or maybe it was the contract between her and Shijue. Under her warm words, Shiju's struggling movements gradually became much gentler. But he still kept whimpering in a low voice. This voice made Yiqing Luo's heart ache. She suppressed the panic and worry in her heart and tried to make her mood and tone appear gentle and gentle. "Shijue, tell me, where are you uncomfortable? I'll help you take a look." Ao. Shiju growled softly as its head shook gently. His body, although it obeyed Yiqing Luo's command, there wasn't the extent of struggling like before. However, due to the sharp pain in its head, its huge body was still struggling and trembling uncontrollably. At this moment, Shiju was able to appear slightly obedient in Yiqing Luo's arms. And that was because of the contract between them. Towards Yiqing Luo's question, Shiju totally didn't bother to answer it. This kind of Shiju made Yiqing Luo's heart twitch fiercely, as it became increasingly intense. Her heart ached. He circled Shiju's neck with one hand. One of his hands was quickly searching for something on its smashed head. Shiju's combat form was simply too huge. Yiqing Luo's one hand wasn't even able to wrap around half of Shiju's neck. Along with her hand, the action of touching on its head for a long time. Shiju could not help but become restless again. He wholeheartedly wanted to struggle free from Yiqing Luo and hit the ground again. In this struggle, Yiqing Luo's fingers felt a hard protruding object on Shiju's head. This touch was very obvious. This was not the feeling of a soul pearl. Yiqing Luo's expression changed as she speedily pressed down on Shiju's head, following the place which she had touched earlier as she brushed aside the shiny black fur. As expected. On Shiju's head, nestled in the middle was a fist-sized black tortoise soul pearl. Chapter 3301. Wait a minute. Not just one. On the other side of the soul bead, there was another similar-sized black hard object. What was this thing? It looked as though it had grown two horns. Extremely symmetrical. It was these two things which popped out that made Shiju in so much pain. When Yiqing Luo's hand touched the two black hard objects, Shiju's huge body started to tremble violently. Its head was struggling even more violently. Apparently, it was in a lot of pain. What on earth was going on? Why did these two things suddenly pop out from Shiju's head? Suddenly, Yiqing Luo heard Zhu Wu Xian's sharp cry, "Yiqing Luo! Quickly avoid it!" This sharp cry made Yiqing Luo's expression change as she speedily turned her head around and looked behind her. Right in front of him, he saw a thick and vast palm wind coming towards him. That momentum was like a hot knife through butter. Under this imposing manner, there was no one who was able to avoid it. Master! Stupid human! She heard Chi and Shiju's shocked cries. That palm wind had already charged downwards. Bam! The palm wind struck her body and she flew backwards in midair. Following that, she stood on the ground. Her body was still out of control as she staggered several steps backwards. Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo stared blankly at the figure in front of her, who was like a green bamboo, standing upright in front of her. Just at the instance when the palm wind struck over, Zhu Wu Xian rushed over. He forcefully withstood that palm strike. Using his own body to withstand that palm strike. Yiqing Luo's heart felt as though something was piercing her fiercely. Her neck felt as though it was being strangled by something. She found it extremely difficult to even breathe. Why? Why did he block in front of her without any hesitation? That palm strike, how sharp was it? It was impossible for him not to know. But Zhu Wu Xian had no hesitation as he blocked in front of her. Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with an indescribable feeling. The red-robed man who was standing in front of her slowly turned his head over. His hand was pressed on his chest. His face, which was as cold as jade, was extremely pale. It accentuated his temperament, which made one's heart tremble. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice calm. Yiqing Luo's throat tightened as her slender fingers clenched tightly. "Why do you always have to be like this, disregarding your own life to save me? I don't need you to protect me like this." There was still no change in Zhu Wuxin's expression. "It's good that you're fine." Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo really didn't know how to face Zhu Wu Xian. If Zhu Wuxin's feelings for her were purely brotherly, then it would be a different story. She could still accept him sacrificing himself to save her. Because if it was anyone else in the devil class, she would do the same, standing in front of them without hesitation. However, Zhu Wuxin was different. Because of Chu Wuxin's feelings and obsession for her, she simply could not face Zhu Wuxin with the feelings she had for her brother. Now is not the time to criticize me. Zhu Wuxin raised his eyelids and gazed into the distance. I'm afraid that little battle pet of yours won't last much longer. And I'm afraid I can't deal with those monsters either. As soon as he finished speaking, a trace of blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He raised his hand and slowly wiped away the blood stains on the corner of his lips. His pale lips, which had no color of blood, were stained with a hint of flirtatious color. Zhu Wu Xian. Yiqing Luo immediately stood up, wanting to support Zhu Wu Xian. Just now, Zhu Wuxin had taken the full brunt of that palm. If it was her. Chapter 3302. But Yiqing Luo had just released Shiju. A roar came from Shiju's mouth. Soon after, he once again ruthlessly smashed his head against the ground. Shiju. No. Yiqing Luo pounced towards Shiju once again as she hugged its head tightly. Roar. Howl howl. Shiju struggled crazily as it was filled with pain and growls, making Yiqing Luo's heart twitch when she heard it. She could not let go of Shiju. Once it was released, Shiju would go crazy. What were those two things on its head? Because it was something that came out of the flesh. Was that why Shiju was in so much pain? Was he trying to knock the two hard objects back by slamming into the ground? Yiqing Luo hugged Shiju's head tightly as she turned around to look at Zhu Wu Xian, who had already wiped the blood stains off his lips. Zhu Wu Xian, are you alright? Zhu Wuxin was injured to protect her. She didn't even have a way to support Zhu Wuxin. I'm fine. As though he saw the anxiety in Yiqing Luo's heart, Zhu Wu Xian slowly shook his head. Don't bother about me. Yiqing Luo pursed her lips. Your injury, you can't fight anymore. Zhu Wuxin didn't reply. He just stood in front of her, unwavering, with no intention of leaving. Ha ha ha, what a lovely couple. Wind Chimes, who had succeeded in her ambush, smiled coldly at the two of them. Earlier, Yiqing Luo's entire heart was placed on Shiju. That was the best chance to get rid of Yiqing Luo. Without any hesitation, she ordered the other corpse puppets to stop Zhu Wuxin. Following that, he unleashed all the energy in his body towards Yiqing Luo's direction, gathering it into one palm. But he didn't expect, Chu Wu Xian actually broke through the corpse puppet's obstruction and helped Yiqing Luo to receive this palm strike. But that didn't matter. If it hit Zhu Wuxin, it would be the same. No matter how strong Zhu Wuxin was. Receiving a palm strike that she had poured all of her strength into, she would also suffer from severe internal injuries. He no longer had the ability to protect Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo would definitely die. Wind Chime's eyes were filled with madness, and her killing intent was clear. I'll fulfill your wish. I'll let you be a couple in hell. Wind Chime's hoarse and sharp laughter was extremely ear-piercing. Number 1, the corpse puppet said. That's the palace lord's partner. We can't touch him. He pointed at Zhu Wu Xian. Feng Ling's eyes turned sharp as she looked at the undead corpse puppet. That thing's awakening time has been brought forward. If we continue to delay, we will all be finished. Now, there is only one way, and that is to join forces and kill both of them. Qing Wu S. Luo, after a pause, her lips curled into a sneer. At that time, if the palace master blames us, we can just tell him the truth, right? The corpse puppets exchanged looks. M.O. In the entire forbidden area, the unique and mysterious airflow rippling in the air was becoming more and more obvious. Zhu, Ling, Chen, Zhu, in the end, they chose to listen to wind chimes. In front of him were 5 new undead puppets and wind chimes. The Qing Luo. Yeldang Shiju. The Wu Yi Wu. Ju Qing. Tian Qing Tian, Yi Qing, Ju, Luo Qing Shi Ju Luo Yi, Shi Ju was Yi, as Ju and Shui was Yi and Luo. But Yi Qing Luo and the rest were obviously at a disadvantage. If time dragged on, even if Qi Yan and Qi Qi were sacred beasts, she wouldn't be able to afford it. Thinking of this, Yi Qing Luo's slender brows creased tightly. Chapter 3303. Ha ha ha. Yi Qing Luo, based on your ability, it's not difficult for you to escape. Looking at Yi Qing Luo's cold expression and tightly knitted brows, Feng Ling couldn't help but laugh out loud. Her eyes were filled with ridicule towards Yi Qing Luo. What a pity. Our great Madame D is kind-hearted and would never do something like abandoning her companions and leaving alone. She laughed softly, as if she was praising her, but in actual fact it was ridiculing her. Just like earlier, you could obviously avoid my palm strike. But you were worried that once you avoided it, my palm strike would hit that little war pet of yours. I didn't expect you to have a lover to block that palm strike for you. Feng Ling looked at Zhu Wu Xian in disdain. Lord Castle Lord, how are you going to protect that scoundrel now? Do you think she'll be able to block one more attack? As she spoke, Feng Ling covered her mouth and giggled. Extremely carefree laughter. As if she wanted to vent out all the humiliation she had suffered during this period of time. Yi Qing Luo, since you can't abandon your companions, then die here with them. Feng Ling's last sentence was abruptly raised in volume. At the same time, 50 over heaven-reaching beasts roared in unison. Immediately, they attacked Yi Qing Luo's direction at the same time. Rumble. Suddenly, the entire ground started to shake violently. The sky also turned dark. A bolt of lightning seemed to split open a hole in the sky. Just like it opened its bloody mouth. The surrounding air was filled with fluctuations and instantly turned into raging waves, surging and crashing against everything in the surroundings. Roar! The heaven-reaching beasts suddenly let out a blood-curdling scream. Lightning and thunder streaked across the horizon and struck the body of the heaven-reaching beast. Bolts of lightning continued to fall. Not long after, the surrounding was filled with a burnt smell of barbecued meat. The heaven-reaching beast's screams became more and more tragic. The sudden change made Feng Ling's expression change drastically. Upon seeing this, several undead corpse puppets quickly evaded the falling lightning bolts. What's going on? How can the weather change in this place? Feng Ling screamed at the top of her lungs. Damn it! That scoundrel was actually so lucky. He even had the help of heavenly thunder. Wasn't this forbidden land isolated from the rest of the world? How could the weather change? How could there be lightning? The undead puppets raised their heads and looked at the pitch-black sky. The sky was filled with rolling dark clouds. It was a dark and oppressive scene. Roar, 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 the three-eyed heavenly beasts that had been struck by the lightning bolts were all curled up on the ground. Head buried in the ground. His claws hugged his head. He had a pious look on his face. This scene made Feng Ling so angry that her face contorted. All of you, stand up. Why are all of you lying on the ground? Wasn't it just a few bolts of lightning? That's enough to scare you? But no matter how wind chimes shouted, the remaining 30 or so heaven-reaching beasts that hadn't been struck were still holding their heads and shivering in fear. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud crash. A bolt of heavenly thunder struck directly on Feng Ling. Feng Ling's entire body was jolted by the electric current. Half of her black robe was charred by the lightning, leaving only a few pieces of cloth hanging on her body. Seeing this, the other dead puppets quickly retreated. They stood in a relatively safe position. What a powerful aura. Chapter 3304. Because of this battle, the surrounding lush trees had all fallen to the ground, revealing that piece of dark and oppressive sky. Yi Qing Luo could also see it clearly. Between the surging dark clouds, there seemed to be something in it, stirring up the clouds and rain. But no matter how Yiqing Luo looked, she couldn't see clearly what was in it. What the hell is this lightning? Feng Ling cursed angrily and climbed up from the ground. She had just opened her mouth to curse. Feng Ling heard a crack sound, the sound of something cracking. Feng Ling was stunned. This cracking sound was too close. So close, as if she was the one who had cracked herself. Cracked? This thought made Feng Ling's pupils suddenly widen. Almost subconsciously, she took out a dagger from her space pocket. She raised the blade. A short scream of pain came from Feng Ling's mouth. She threw the dagger out and held her face with both hands. No. Can't do this. Can't. My face, my face. Crack, crack, there was another crisp cracking sound. Feng Ling held her head and half squatted on the ground. Just now, she clearly saw her horrifying face reflected on the blade of the knife. Her face was struck by the lightning and turned black. The most horrifying thing was the position from her cheek to her chin. It was cracked. Cracked into two halves. Moreover, it was not like before, when she was a test subject in the secluded palace. Even if her limbs were broken, they could still be reattached. The crack on her chin could not be closed. She couldn't feel any pain. There was no blood in her body. She could only hear the sound of her face cracking. Feng Ling almost collapsed. Even though her face had been completely destroyed, she was still able to maintain her composure. But it didn't mean that she could accept her face being ruined, and it was that kind of shocking destruction. Feng Ling's look just now. Not only those 5 corpse puppets saw it. Yiqing Luo also saw it clearly. When the 5 corpse puppets saw this situation, they were already afraid of the rolling dark clouds in the sky and the lightning that was about to strike again. Each of them stared at the sky very vigilantly. How could they care about Feng Ling's life or death? Yiqing Luo retracted her vision. She lowered her eyes and looked at Shiju in her arms. Not knowing when, Shiju stopped struggling. The huge leopard raised its head and stared blankly at the sky. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to turn Shiju into its pet form as she hugged it in her arms and immediately stood up as she hooked Zhu Wu Xian's arm. Let's leave first. Whether that bolt of lightning was friend or foe, no one knew. It could even deal with the new undead puppets. She and the 2 sacred beasts would not have a good time either. Moreover, Shiju's condition had to be resolved. Zhu Wuxin was also seriously injured. We can't delay any longer. Roar! In his embrace, Shiju's mouth emitted a short cry. It struggled fiercely, and while Yiqing Luo was supporting Zhu Wu Xian to sit on Chi-Chi's back, it rolled out from Yiqing Luo's embrace. Yiqing Luo was shocked as her expression changed greatly. Shiju. She supported Zhu Wuxin and immediately rushed towards the direction of Shiju. The tiny Shiju rolled on the ground a few times. Then it raised its head and looked at the sky in a daze. It didn't move at all, just staring at the sky. And the place where Shiju rolled was coincidentally near where Feng Ling was hugging her head. Feng Ling only needed to stretch out her hand and she would be able to grab it. And it was because of this distance. Chapter 3305. Feng Ling caught a glimpse of a black little thing from the corner of her eyes. She held her split face and looked up. She saw the battle pet which Yiqing Luo doted on was lying by her feet in a daze. That little thing was in the form of a pet, the size of a palm, and looked harmless. Moreover, the little thing stared at the sky without blinking, totally unaware of its own situation. Seeing Yiqing Luo's worried face, rushing over at an extremely fast speed, Feng Ling's eyes flashed a trace of coldness. She became like this, all because of Yiqing Luo. She would not be well. Yiqing Luo would not be well either. Didn't Yiqing Luo love this little thing? She would kill this little thing right in front of Yiqing Luo. Let Yiqing Luo have a taste of heartache. Feng Ling's murderous intent was revealed. Her long leg stretched out and her palm rushed towards Shiju. Feng Ling. Don't you dare. Yiqing Luo's expression changed greatly. Her slender brows knitted into a ball as she gritted her teeth and shouted in a low voice. Shiju had no reaction towards Feng Ling's attack. Yiqing Luo was anxious. The glower flame fan in her hand quickly opened up and struck a wind blade towards Feng Ling. Yiqing Luo became more anxious. Feng Ling became more complacent. As a result, she neglected, just as she rushed towards Shiju. Shiju's shiny black little body, a ray of green light, shrouded it completely. Bam! In front of her, the green light flickered. Feng Ling's body, like a kite with a broken string, flew out. Following that, she saw a green shadow, heavily hit Feng Ling's body that flew out, lying on the ground. Kacha! It was another crisp breaking sound. Feng Ling's body was directly cut into two. Feng Ling's eyes widened, both hands touched her waist. When she touched the bottom, it was empty. She let out a short scream in panic. What was this? What was this thing? Why could it break her body, which had been transformed into a corpse puppet? Feng Ling struggled to lift her body, looked down at the empty direction below her. Immediately, she was completely stunned. That was a huge tail. A green tail. That tail was between her upper body and lower body. It was this tail that broke her body. Ong! A deep voice pierced through the air and exploded in his mind. From Yiqing Luo's angle, they could clearly see the scene in front of him. It was a body that came down from the dark clouds and circled around. Azure light flickered, and azure dragon scales glittered brightly. This was the azure dragon. A gigantic azure dragon. The dark clouds parted. A huge dragon's head slowly lowered. Green dragon? Is it Azure Dragon? Qi Yan and Qi Qi stared at Azure Dragon and shouted excitedly. Azure Dragon, this was the Azure Dragon? One of the four great sacred beasts, the Azure Dragon sacred beast? Yiqing Luo raised her head and looked at the overbearing and domineering green dragon as a sliver of admiration flashed past her eyes. As expected of the head of the four great sacred beasts, the Azure Dragon. This aura is much stronger than Qi Yan's arrogant vermilion bird. The Azure Dragon's appearance caused the three-eyed heavenly beasts to lower their heads even lower with their tails between their legs. Their eyes were filled with horror. Feng Ling, who was still struggling to lift her hand, fell down heavily. She looked at the place where the azure light was flickering in horror, murmuring in disbelief, really, awakened in advance. Why did she encounter it? She widened her eyes unwillingly. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.